to the Leo Training Podcast with Joe DeLeo. You'll hear in-depth interviews and tips from world-class athletes, coaches, and industry-leading experts to help you train smarter and improve at what you love to do. Train smarter, get stronger, move better, race faster. Here's your host, Joe DeLeo.
We're back with episode 67 of the Leo Training Podcast. And this week, I have a very special guest for all of you, Dr. Perry Nickelston. Dr. Perry is the man who inspired me to start this podcast. So it was a true honor for me to have the opportunity to sit down and interview him. So let me tell you a little bit more about Dr. Perry. Dr. Perry Nickelston is a chiropractic physician with 19 years experience in the trenches helping people to get out of pain. He is the owner of the Pain Laser Center in Waldwick, New Jersey, which specializes in deep tissue laser therapy for pain relief and healing, and is the owner and director of Stop Chasing Pain, an education company dedicated to teaching people how to move better and take back control of their lives from pain. He is an international speaker and teacher on movement, pain, laser therapy, and corrective exercise programs, and the creator of the Primal Movement Chains Moving Beyond Mobility courses, which are taught all over the world. He is also a writer and columnist for numerous fitness and health industry publications, a Master Instructor for RockTape, Neurokinetic Therapy, Functional Movement Screen, and Selective Functional Movement Assessment, and a board member for the AIMLA American Institute for Medical Laser Application. Dr. Perry and I cover a ton of ground in this interview. We discuss the story behind the name Stop Chasing Pain. We also discuss why stability rules the movement road, why speed hides need. We also discuss his Primal Movement Chains workshop and his upcoming book, Stop Chasing Pain. And we also discuss a little bit more in depth his approach and philosophy in helping people get out of pain and move better. So without further ado, let's roll to episode 67 with Dr. Perry Nickelston, Stop Chasing Pain. So tonight's guest, I'm very pleased and honored to have on. Dr. Perry Nickelston is somebody who I've had the pleasure of learning from in person several times, and I've been following his work for several years now. And he is the man who inspired me to actually start this podcast. So very, very pleased to have him on the show. Perry, welcome. Thank you for taking the time to come on.
Oh, thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. And thanks for the kind words. I'm so excited for you. I'm proud of you for putting the podcast together. That's really fantastic. I can't believe it's been, a couple of years, actually, when we first met each other. It's great. Come a long way.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
You bet. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. And I know you've got some amazing things coming out later this year that we will be sharing with the audience and letting them know a little bit more about them. Before we get into some of the topics, for those in my audience that are not familiar with you or your work, I would love for you to take a couple moments and introduce yourself and let them know your background and what you're currently doing. And you're all over the world, so you got a lot of people you're reaching these days.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'll try to keep it kind of short and brief because I know we're going to get into a lot of different conversations, and I kind of like for when we talk for my philosophy and paradigm to kind of reveal itself. But I've been in the pain game for a long time. I call it that because, it's something where I look at trying to help people feel better is getting them to play a little bit more and look outside kind of conventional ways to help themselves get better. But I've got about 23 years now, I think, going on being a chiropractic physician. And I got into this business to try to help people through chiropractic, which helped me. And then I've since branched out into a lot of other different things, particularly with human movement, to try to get people to take back control of their lives from pain by learning how to not be scared of movement, intimidated by movement, and getting back down to the ground, which is a big place that I like to take people for helping them. And I do that through education, through as best I can, through internet and through workshops and through my upcoming book that I know we're going to talk about. And I just try to study anything and everything that I can come across to help really determine why people get pain in the first place. But more importantly, when they get pain, why, if they go through all these great types of therapies, that it really doesn't stay gone. Like, why does it keep coming back? And I think I've kind of finally found an answer for that, which I think we'll get through as we go along. So it's a never-ending journey, honestly. And I love what I do. I'm very passionate about it. And hopefully some of the things that I talk about or divulge will get people to think a little bit of a different way, maybe step outside their comfort zone a little bit, or say, wow, I never thought about it like that. And then I think I've done my job as somebody who's trying to make a change in the world.
Outstanding. Yeah, well, I have no doubt that you're doing that. And so it's been great to be learning from you and like I said, be there in person to experience some of the concepts and material you're bringing out. So it's fantastic stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, we had a good time, man. I think we definitely had something, a RockTape course, right? One of the taping courses that we had, and then you came to one of my movement courses. So you've seen quite a bit of different approaches that we've had. And what's interesting is that through that was several years ago. I mean, there's new things that I've come across and different approaches that I do, and then that's what happens when you're forever a student.
Absolutely. That's the name of the game. Always learning, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the way it should be. You need to be open to new things, open to new paradigms, and be willing to say, damn, man, I mean, I completely had it wrong at one point. But that's the way it is with research at any time, right? I mean, we're kind of going by what we know right now, what we think works. And then when we turn around maybe a year or several years later, we find out that we were incorrect or we were wrong. But that's just the nature of learning. Right? If you're ever going to progress and try to be better at something, you also have to be willing to admit when you were wrong.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, the world was flat at one point.
Yeah. Or more importantly, when we go back to the brain, there used to be a time when scientists didn't think that your brain could change itself. Like right. the cells you were born with are what you have, and they just die, and then you can't get them back. And I mean, that's kind of like completely archaic. That's even worse than the earth being flat, in my opinion. And now they're saying that through neuroplasticity, wow, you do have the ability to actually change your brain and change your pain and improve how you move by thinking a certain way or moving a certain way. So the brain can learn and improve itself and change. And I think that's absolutely incredibly fascinating that someone can be able to take back control of their life in many, many different ways once they realize they have the power to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, the concept and learning more about neuroplasticity, I mean, that's something that you and I have had conversations about. And I remember we talked about during that RockTape weekend, Norman, I might mispronounce his name.
Deutsch.
Yeah. The Brain That Changes Itself. Great book.
Great book. Yeah. And he's got another one, The Brain That Heals Itself, right? He's got two.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So can you share a little bit more about the name Stop Chasing Pain and how did you come to that and what's the story behind the name?
Sure. I love talking about it. Thank you very much. I wanted something that kind of resonated with people and something that stands out. And I'll tell you how I got the name in just a moment, but I knew I was on the right track with having it where I would put it on my shirt. And then I'd go out in public and people would actually say, wow, that's kind of a cool name, or what does that mean? Right? So it sparks a conversation. And really what it means is that, one, we definitely want to treat pain because pain tells you that there's something up, there's something wrong. My favorite definition of what pain means is that pain is a request for change. And I want you to think about that statement just a moment. It's a request from whom? It's a request from your body, your brain, and your nervous system to just say, hey, you need to change something here because I'm not happy. Right? So people think pain is a bad thing. It's really not a bad thing. It's an extremely powerful, positive thing because that's your body's way of telling you, listen, I need some help. I can't keep doing this on my own. We need to change something up. And then the thing is do we listen? Right? And then for me, we need to change not so much the type of medication that we're taking, right? It's not going from like Percocet to oxycodone, or going from a heating pad to a cold pack. Sure, those play their role, but to me, it's changing how you move and changing how you think. And the beautiful thing is, if you change how you move, you change how you think. You change how you think, you change how you move. So they marry each other And then I came across a name many, many years ago, going on about 8 years ago. And I love telling this story because I was at a workshop called the SFMA, the Selective Functional Movement Assessment, which is a medical way to look at how somebody moves and why they might be having pain. And that was created by several mentors of mine. Greg Cook, a very brilliant physical therapist down in Virginia, and Greg Rose, really brilliant, chiropractor. And then you got Kyle Kiesel, physical therapist as well. And I was at one of the very first ones that they put together ever in New Jersey. And I was sitting in there and they were talking about how, where you think it is, it ain't. Like, if your left hip hurts, it's probably not your left hip. You may want to look somewhere else. And that was like a first big brain blow for me. But like, holy cow, man, that's a really cool concept. Because I was just like treating pain. And a white slide came up, right, during the presentation. And 3 words popped up in red, just in a very bold font. And it said, "Stop chasing pain" on it. And I just got blasted in the face with like, that's perfect. That's it. That's what I was looking for. You remember when I call it like an epiphany or something? I'm like, wow, that's really sweet. So, I immediately wrote down the name and I'm like, that's awesome. And I was like, man, I hope that nobody has this domain name. So I immediately went right on the internet during class and looked, and I went to do a search, I believe, on GoDaddy at the time. And I was like, sweet, nobody's got it yet.
Nice.
So I claimed the name, and then I asked Gray afterwards. I said, listen, I saw this up there, obviously, and I took the name and stuff, but I wanted to make sure that's okay with you. And if you know Gray, he's very giving, and he's like, absolutely. So I've kind of ran with it from how it inspired me, and I hope I've done that concept, sharing it to the world of how powerful it is. And what it means is this, is that, yes, you treat it, but don't chase it. And honestly, people really do that a lot. And to me, if you just treat the side of pain, you're actually just chasing it. Because there's the dirty little secret in the world of pain and musculoskeletal injuries. It's always coming from somewhere else. Right. You have a problem with where it hurts because it's freaking hurt. But I'm always asking, okay, well, let's say if your right knee hurts, why the hell did your brain decide to hurt your right knee? And then I got to figure out what the strategy was and where it's coming from. And if you treat the knee and the knee gets better, well, props up, you found it. But if it doesn't get better, you got it wrong. Or it's so jacked up that you're not doing the right thing and you really need help on it. Or maybe, just maybe, if it keeps coming back, that's your knee telling you, dude, you ain't even close. Maybe you should go, like, how about go take a look at the ankle below or the hip above the knee, or better yet, go take a look at the opposite side of your body. And a lot of people don't do that because it doesn't hurt. If it doesn't hurt in our world, it's like, dude, it's okay if it hurts. But that's the one of the reasons why people end up suffering for so many years, is because they go through this vicious cycle and vicious circle of just treating where it hurts and managing symptoms and pain. And managing pain is really not that difficult. It's just a matter of drugs or whatever you do to it. And but if you listen to the body and you really take time to listen and focus on the client, what they say, how they do, how they move. Because if you look at how somebody moves, you'll always find it, because movement doesn't lie to you. That's the body trying to tell you something. It's just depending on whether you actually see it or not.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
And it's picking up on it. So if you take the time and you respect that the body is all interconnected, and the body can choose to do whatever the hell it wants and have any compensation pattern it wants and any cheat that it wants to try to get you from point A to point B. And it's really easy for me, honestly, in my job, where you don't usually end up coming to see me until you've been everywhere else first. I've kind of purposely designed my practice that way, where if you go and you get your back's hurt and you've gone everywhere and you've gotten serious things ruled out, like a cancer or a tumor or really bad things. And most of the times people have done some really cool shit to you, right? I mean, they've done stuff that should help you. Chiro, PT, whatever, all these things that can be very beneficial and they help a lot of people. But when they don't, that's when you make your way into somebody like me. And it's very easy if you think about it. If going after your back was the answer, you wouldn't be standing in front of me asking me for help. So the last place I'm going to go is at your back. Right? So I'm going to go somewhere else that you think, dude, that makes no sense at all. And I'm like, okay, now you're starting to get it.
Yeah, and that's one of the big things that I've learned from you is that I might be paraphrasing slightly, but I've heard you say this is that the reason that say your back or your knee, the reason it hurts like a son of a bitch is because it's overworking and it's picking up slack for somewhere else that's in the part of your body that's not doing its job.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's kind of the victim criminal thing, right? It's never the criminal that's screaming. It's always the victim, right? And so think about it logically. I mean, an area hurts probably because it's doing a ton of work. It's overworking. And the body tells you that, dude, I'm getting a little pissed here because I'm doing all the work. And the area that you go after, and I tell people this all the time, is that if you think from a perspective of what your brain's trying to tell you, it gives you pain because it tells you it's trying to make a change, but it also gives you that because it's trying to protect you, right? Mm-hmm. It's a form of saying to you, like, I'm trying to make these muscles tight, or maybe a little spasm, or take away motion in your hip for one reason, and that's to try to prevent you from moving, because if you move too much beyond what you're capable of right now, you're really going to hurt yourself. So it's actually a protective mechanism. And when you understand it from that point of view, then I've got to ask, what is it trying to protect me from somewhere else, right? And then because the brain has really one goal, and that's to make sure that you don't die. I mean, it just doesn't want to be dead, man. I mean, that's the top thing. Like, hey, I want to wake up tomorrow. And it really doesn't give a shit if you feel good or don't feel good. It doesn't care if your hip moves or doesn't move, because it's like, okay, accomplished another day where Perry's not dead. And then quality comes into play very far down the food chain. So what I'm looking for is what the body has to do in order to make itself through another day. So it sacrifices many things in order to take care of kind of what's in front of it at the moment. So it's like, dude, I've got to deal with this issue maybe in your hip the best way I can, and I'm going to sacrifice other areas for that, and I'll deal with those later. And then it's kind of a perpetual cycle when you do that, if that makes sense.
No, that totally makes sense. That totally makes sense. And I might be slightly a little more informed, I should say, since I've been through your course and I know the material and have applied the concepts and everything.
Yeah.
I've had success with it. So,
good.
So you've got some fantastic, quotes, and, I follow you on Instagram and stuff. And, one that I've used and I really love is why stability rules the movement road.
Sure. Yeah.
So what does that mean, and why is that so true?
Oh boy, how much time do you got, right? So let's talk about movement, right? I mean, what it is. Pardon me, I got to clear my throat. Let's talk about movement. In order for somebody to be able to move, right, they have to have the ability to move. And the ability to move is what we call mobility. Can you actually move your joints? Can you move your muscles and your soft tissue and stuff called fascia? So let's think about how you want to just be able to move your right arm in a circle. That's mobility. But you also have to have some ability to control that movement, right? And some people call it stability, where if you have the ability to maintain stability, which is stay with me, it's the ability to control movement, but it's also the ability to prevent movement, right? Mm-hmm. So what happens is if your body and your brain don't feel stable, and I use another S word for that now, so I started to use the word safety instead of stability. So if you think of safety and stability interchangeable, because I'm going after your brain here, right? if my brain doesn't feel safe, it doesn't want you to move, right? Because it's under threat, and it's like, I'm not going to let you go anywhere, man, because it's like, I'm really scared here and you might get hurt. And the easiest way it's going to prevent you from moving is to not let you move by locking down your back or your hip or your neck, and then it sends you like tight muscles. And the easiest way it's going to stop you from moving is to do what? I'm just going to hurt you, right? Then you won't move. So what I look at is that in order for the brain to feel safe and say, dude, this is great. I mean, I feel stable. I feel safe. Therefore, man, I'm going to give you all the motion you want. I'm going to give you all the flexibility you want. And if you're asking me to give you some strength, well, I'm going to grant it to you, right? And then if you don't give it that, it won't give it to you. So my whole program is this. It's, yeah, I'm going to work on trying to get you to move better, the ability to move. So I'm going to take joints that are stuck and unstuck them, and I'm going to relax tissue and stretch stuff and do all that. But that's what we mostly do all the time, right? I mean, if you go see a therapist or a chiro or a doc or anybody, most of the time they just want to get in there and like stretch you or release muscles or joints because they're stuck, right? Or give you a pain pill to relax a muscle and spasm. That honestly is the rather easy part. But that's treating the painful part, and that's sort of easy. But finding out why it hurts, that ain't the easy part. And to me, the answer is this. If I give you back all this motion through all the work that I'm going to do, like massage or chiro or PT or a needle or a pill or surgery or whatever, I've got to teach your brain and your body how to be able to control it. And I do that through making you feel safe and making you feel stable. And how I choose to do that is through my corrective program, where I put you down in an environment where you are very stable and where your body learned to move in the first place before you even had stability, because that's the ground, right? So if we go all the way back to when you were like a baby, you had tons of mobility, but you couldn't control it for shit. I mean, it's a big blob rolling around on the floor, right? You had to earn your stability on the ground. And then you started to create what we call patterns. Patterns is what we call motor control, where you can learn, I'm not just flailing around on the floor. I learn how I can move my hands and my arms and my head to actually get from point A to point B. So the job of the floor and all that is to help you accomplish a task. And the task for you is to get up off the floor, to be able to rise onto 2 feet, because every single fiber in your body is designed to get you up off of the floor. And I'm going to say that again. Every single fiber in your body is designed to get you off the floor. So what I'm going to do is I think about this way. Well, if Mother Nature puts you on the floor to have you earn the right to get your stability there before she let you stand up and generate strength and power, Mother Nature is pretty smart. So why don't I just do what she did? So I'm going to make you very mobile, like you used to be, and then I'm going to put you down on the ground where your brain gave it to you in the first place with your stability, and that's moving around on the ground. And the ground will reveal your deficits in strength faster than any environment that I can put you in. But it will also, which is the cool thing, it'll also make you ungodly strong at the same time. So it'll reveal your deficits, but it will give you lots of strength down there. And that's what we want. We want strength and resilience of being able to move through power and controlling the body. But I want to build a strength in your mind that when you're on the ground and realize that you can move and have something not hurt.
Yeah, and that's one of I think the biggest benefits from doing a lot of, play and work on the floor is not only the safety aspect, but you can really enable people to build a ton of confidence in that environment. And then, when they come back to, being upright, it really does change a lot of things.
Yeah. I mean, instantly, like a light switch. And I always tell people this. I say, you can't learn to walk until you learn how to move first.
Right.
So walking is just a form of movement, but you learn to move on the ground. So if I'm trying to make you a more efficient mover, I don't like the term better mover, because what the hell does that mean? I mean, better is based on what you need in that moment for you to accomplish the given task that you're in the environment that you're in. Because no two people are going to accomplish the same movement task. And just because I don't do it like you doesn't mean yours is better than mine. But I can make it more efficient for me. So I don't even use the term functional movement. Right? There's a big term, functional. But what the hell does that mean either? Right? So I use the term efficient movement, which is whatever you have to deal with based on your own individual body that you're born with or your history with. Like, I mean, if I've got a pin in my hip or my knee, that's going to have to make it more efficient for me. And it also depends on the task that I'm trying to accomplish and the environment that I'm trying to accomplish it in. So if I make you a more efficient mover, then I therefore make you able to get from point A to point B with less effort, which is very key. Because the less effort you need to move, probably the more likely you are not to jack your ass up, right? To get hurt. And so the way you can become more efficient is to get down on the ground and have to coordinate all of your body parts together. And what's great about the ground is it's very safe, right? Like, you have a lot of your body on the ground and many different points of contact. And many different points of contact in order to be able to generate force from. And that's what stability is. Stability is the ability to generate force, right? And then if I can give you, instead of standing on 2 feet, right, when you move around, you're very rarely even standing on 2 feet. You're most of the time on 1 foot. Right? When you walk, 80% of your time when you walk is on 1 foot. That's not very stable, especially if you can't even control the rest of your body. So that right then and there is a threat to your nervous system. Every step you take, your brain is freaking out. You just don't know it because you're like, dude, it's just walking. What the hell's so hard about that? But it's the non-conscious part of that with every step where you get what I call a brain freak, right? And it's just like, dude, I don't like this, so I'm going to tighten shit up. So what I do is actually make you feel safer by, one, taking you back down to the ground. So instead of standing on 1 foot, I've got your elbows, your hands, your knees, probably your legs and your shoulders. I've got multiple points of contact on the ground. So you can have a stable base to move from. But, you know, it takes you way back to when there was a time when you can't remember it because you're just rolling around trying to put stuff in your mouth, right? Like you felt very safe on the ground, right? I mean, that's where you could learn and move, and mom and dad were up there. It's an environment where your nervous system could let you play. And the world kicks our ass, right? I mean, we're up on 2 feet, we're out and about, we're just coming, we're going, we're at Mach speed. But if I put you down on the ground, I think what I'm doing is I'm putting you in an environment that your brain and your body are craving for you to return to. And if I put you there, it remembers very quickly, like within a matter of minutes, actually. So instead of me having to teach you all this crazy new stuff, I just take you back to these basics that your body has forgotten and just needs to be reminded. And for me, I never do anything before you do the ground, because when you look at coaching and you look at practicing, and I'm big in martial arts, right? One of the things they tell you is that how well you master the basics determines how effective and how well you're going to do everything afterwards. Right. So if I'm trying to get better at all this other fancy stuff, it's not about doing the fancy stuff more. It's going back and making sure that you've actually got the basics down. Then when you do that, well, then the other stuff gets easier. So to me, the basics are, crawl, roll, move, all things down on the ground, learn to get up off the ground. And then the other stuff is just like the creamy filling, I call it. I mean, that's just the fluff afterwards. And walking, honestly, people they take walking for granted. Walking is the most complicated movement pattern on the planet Earth. We're the only species that can do it for upright bipedalism. You can't even have robots do this shit because you can't coordinate it all. But you also didn't pop out of your mom running on 2 feet, right? You had to go on the ground to get back up. So what I do is I take you out of that standing environment and I bring you back down to the ground. And usually what you'll end up doing is like, first of all, you're like, what the hell is this? This is crazy, right? But then you step out of your own way, basically. And when you've been in pain for years and years and years and nothing's been able to help you, you're very open to what I call the crazy shit path, like doing things that might be out of the box. Because they're like, dude, I'll do whatever you tell me to. I just want to feel better. And then what happens when you're down on the ground is, once you step outside your comfort zone is, holy cow, you actually start to maybe smile a little bit, laugh a little bit, and then you say to yourself, this shit is really hard.
Yeah.
And it is. It is. But that's the whole deal for me of going down to the ground first before I do all of the other things on 2 feet, because those things, I have to say, are very helpful for people, right? I mean, every exercise, every corrective, every therapy you go to can be helpful if it's done for the right person at the right time in the right order. But I like to go back to even basics beyond that, because all those things are helpful. But if they're helpful and they don't stick, then you can't make a change.
Right. And one of the points you made there that I love is when people get down on the ground and they start moving around, whether they're doing, some of the rolling patterns or crawling, or the reverse sound or any of the stuff in the Primal Movement Chains course. It never fails to amaze me the look I get on people's faces. They're constantly surprised by how difficult that stuff is.
Yeah, it is. And it's not even such a difficult because it takes a lot of strength to do it. It certainly can when you have to go for a long period of time, because the babies are wicked strong, man. But it's also difficult in being able to coordinate your whole body into these patterns and put it together. So it takes a good amount of strength to be able to lift things up off the ground and move on there. And here's the key: you got to be able to control your body, right? And then that's where you don't want to just move to move, but it's movement with intent, which means I'm in the moment, I'm paying attention to what I want to do, and then the intent is key, because intent gives you control, and control has a lot to do with the ability for you to slow movement down. And most people get hurt, particularly athletes, because they can't slow movement down, or what we call deceleration or eccentric control. That's a big fancy word for me. And man, I just can't stop momentum, and I can't stop the biggest external force that's pushing down on me 24/7 every day, regardless of how old I am, how hot I am, how much money I have, or anything, and that's gravity. Gravity doesn't care anything about you. It just always pushes down, and it's always going to be there long after you're gone.
Right. That's right. Which actually ties into one of the other things I had down here, which is why speed hides need. So you just mentioned, moving slower, building control and coordination. And then, the importance of doing that, because you're building the ability to control deceleration. So when people move very quickly, a lot of times they can cover up some of those mistakes, or I shouldn't say mistakes, but that lack of control.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a pretty big one, especially when you look at trying to assess human movement or why people get hurt. Because I tell people this: if you have a musculoskeletal injury that's non-traumatic, which means that you just fell or somebody ran into you or maybe something dropped on you, right? Because shit happens. But if you're like, dude, my knee hurts and I don't know why it hurts, I know one thing: you can't control external force on your body. And external force is mostly deceleration or momentum control. Here's the thing. Speed hides need. I actually got that phrase from Scott Sonnen. Scott Sonnen is a really brilliant person who works a lot in fitness and works with the military. And it's a great quote because it's very short and very sweet. That what it means is this, is that people go very quickly through shit they don't like, right? Like if your body, if your brain and your body feel uncomfortable, or if they feel vulnerable or unstable, they're not going to want to hang out there for long, right? Because, I mean, that's going to be a chance for you to get hurt, or you just can't control it. And your body says, man, I got to sacrifice something here. So what it does is it goes really quick through it. Like, I'm going to go wham, really quick and cover it up. So it looks like the movement's okay. But how we determine that is we slow stuff down. Because speed hides the need, which is usually stability. And just because you can do it fast doesn't mean you can do it slow. But if you can do it slow, you can do it fast, assuming that I'm going to teach you the technique of how to do it. And some people, right? I mean, if you think about it, can you go fast and be very stable and be very strong? Of course you can, right? Yes. I mean, because speed, you're able to control it. That builds up the momentum, and then that's how you can become a champion. So I tell people, of course you can use momentum, and you should when you want to generate power. But I only let you do that when you can prove to me you can do that movement slow first. Right. Because I know if you can't do it slow first, then what you're doing is momentum is you're just cheating. You're covering up. But you're getting a momentary glitch over stabilization. And it actually makes you slower and weaker in the long run because your body can't keep that up. And then your durability goes down, your power goes down, your strength goes down. And then what you do in response to that is you're like, well, I must have to do more. So then what you do is you put more effort into trying to get better at what you're getting worse at. When what you should do is, it's not about effort, it's about efficiency. So if I can get you to move more efficiently, you therefore need less effort, right? So it's what I do is I tell people, I'm like, okay, you can do this movement, right? And let me see you do a movement. And then I'm going to tell them, I'd like for you to do the movement again. And I want you to do it at this pace and a lot slower. And I use that for my assessment, and I use that for my corrective. Plus, it forces you to be in the moment, right? I mean, like, you really have to pay attention to everything that's moving and how you're breathing, because we're in such a disconnect with our bodies these days. Everything's instantaneous, everything we want yesterday. And we're like, dude, I don't have time to slow down and pay attention to my body. I'm like, well, you will when it hurts your ass. So, you have to, because then that's too late, right? And it's just about taking a moment and detaching from things and take the earbuds out, put the phone down, and just move with some intent. And it's a great way for me to screen a problem, because you're like, man, it hurts when I do this motion, right? So I can think about like, it hurts when I bend over and twist to the left. Then I'm going to say, okay, well, show me how you bend over and twist to the left. And they'll probably do it in real time. And then I'm going to tell them to do it again, slower. And then I'm going to watch what they do. And I'm going to watch where the body wants to move from as opposed to where it ideally should move from. Then I'm going to find out what it's really telling me. Then I can actually then begin to treat them, work with them, and then have them eventually work up to going faster. And it's really, really powerful technique that you can use to see what's going on when you go through it.
Yeah, no, it is. It is, absolutely. I mean, I've seen that firsthand during your courses, and then also, like I said, applying the material I've learned.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite movement that you like to practice on the floor?
Oh, that's a good one. Well, I'm going to say such a cheesy answer, but all movement's my favorite. And what I like to tell people is that you need to find something that you really enjoy doing that brings you pleasure, and whatever that movement might be. And for me, it's not just about moving more for people. It's moving more of yourself when you move, right? So yeah. I'd rather, instead of getting you on a recumbent bike and pedaling, which is great, man. I mean, even if you just start there, that's thumbs up, right? But if I can get you walking, then you're getting more of your arms and legs going. Or if I'm even with walking, I can get you down on the ground and do a movement there, then it's even more of yourself going. For me, when I go down to the ground, I love to do tons of different kind of movements there that I put into what we call a flow, where I kind of just move my body in different directions, and circles and spirals and rotations in different directions, where it's just kind of where I feel like going. And it's very, very relaxing and very peaceful, actually, and makes me pretty damn strong. And one of my favorite movements, if I had to choose one when I'm on the ground, you mentioned it before, because it's probably one of the most powerful movements that an individual can do to help them learn to control rotation in their body, get some nice opening up in their hips, and get some load to their shoulders, and move their neck, and all sorts of different things. And that's what's called the reverse salamander, right? I mean, plus it's just a cool ass name, right? And the reason this is so powerful too is that nobody does it, right? And sometimes getting better with movement is not rocket surgery, which means that maybe, just maybe, if I do things that I don't normally do, I might get better. So I'm pretty sure nobody's doing the reverse salamander.
Yeah, and that one's very, very challenging. It requires a ton of coordination and control, and you're purposefully doing that movement very slowly, and it really exposes if you don't have the ability to maintain that control. And also when you do it on the other side, it can be like, holy crap, I can do it on one side and the other side is not even close.
Yeah, that's a big take-home message for people, right? And then if you think about that, if you can't control that body deceleration like that on the ground, there's no way you're going to be able to control it when you're standing on 2 feet and you walk or you run. You just don't feel it up there, because the rest of your body adapts and compensates. But when I get you to the ground, as I said before, it will reveal your deficits in strength faster than in the environment, where you wouldn't feel it standing up, because it's designed to absorb and change and twist stuff like this to keep you moving forward in what you're designed to do, which is walk from point A to point B. Because if you don't do that, then you're, at least in the time of where we came from in our ancestry, if you couldn't move, you'd be dead.
Right. Absolutely. So let's turn the focus a little bit more towards some of the stuff you got coming up later this year. So you've been, traveling across the world, teaching your workshop, mm-hmm. Primal Movement Chains, mm-hmm. going strong, and then you're an instructor for RockTape, and you've taught for NKT as well. Mm-hmm. And then later this year, you have your book coming out. So why don't you start off, tell people about, we've mentioned it several times, but never kind of formally told them about your workshop, and then also talk about the book coming out.
Sure. Well, thank you. Well, yeah, I'll talk about the workshops first. I've been doing those for several years now, and they continuously grow and expand. And where I'm teaching all over the world, it's a 2-day workshop based kind of on what stuff I've been telling you right now, where I go through explaining why the body does what it does, and then giving you strategies that you can do working with yourself or working with your friends or working with clients, depending on what you're capable of doing, and understanding the framework of how to make yourself stronger and more resilient, but also begin to recover from pain. And I mean, we move you a ton in those 2 days. And those movements are also included in my upcoming book called Stop Chasing Pain. And it's available on Amazon. And it is coming out, I pinky promise. It's like 6 months behind because it's way more of a big project than you ever think it's going to be. And that's the one where my goal was to put a bookshelf on Barnes & Noble that's got really crazy shit in it that would just show you a different alternative and say, wow, I've never thought about that before. And it gives you movements and it gives you assessments and different ways of looking at your body, but easy things that you can do that are not complicated that can make a big difference for you in there. And I'm very excited for that to come out, and also very honored to say that it's been number one in one category or another since it came out, which is good. And it hasn't actually physically come out yet. It's just a pre-release. But I think that's a testament to the people that have been following me and supporting me, and also seeing the value of what it's going to do. Because I really think it's just a very cool way to help the general population that not be exposed to this, to take a look at their body in a cool way, but also let them know that too, you can do it, right? And it's okay if you do it. And that the book came because of the workshops, right? I started to put the workshops together, and then I would teach that and see what worked, what didn't work, what people liked, what they didn't like. And I'm like, wow, that worked better than I thought, or that didn't work at all. And then now that I could put it down in book format and put it out global to the world, and which I'm very, very excited to do. So people can actually come to see me at a 2-day workshops, and they're all over the world. I'm booked out pretty much through the rest of the year. And they're on my website, Stop Chasing Pain. And anybody can come to it. People say, who can come to your workshops? I'm like, well, if you're standing on 2 feet, or even if you can't stand on 2 feet, but you're taking a breath on this planet, you can come to my workshop. And then I can teach you how to, get in tune with your body again. Because I think one of the biggest pet peeves I have with the medical community sometimes is we kind of elevate ourselves up to where, like, oh, only I can help you, or only I understand movement and you don't. Right. And people get intimidated by that. And I'm like, dude, it's your fucking body, man, right? Like, you know it better than anybody else. So you do have the right to move this way. And who the hell is this person to tell me I can't do a deadlift, right? As long as I learn it from the right person. And then, so you can come to a workshop and do that. And then the book is designed for the everyday person as well. I'll put a lot of pictures in there. It's not a pop-up book or anything, though. But it's like a lot of pictures, not a lot of text. And it goes through step by step what you would do here, if this, then that, to go that way. Because I wanted to put something out where you're like, oh, man, I may not think I could do that. And pictures in there. And so hopefully when that comes out, it'll take it to kind of another level on exposing people to do things where they may even take it to their doctor and say, what do you think about this thing? That would be kind of cool to see what they say after that.
No, well, first off, congratulations. I didn't realize that it's been number one on Amazon, so that's very cool. And
thank you.
I'm super excited for you. I know you've been working on this project for a couple of years now, probably before I knew about it. So it's been several years in the making. So I know you're very excited and anxious to get it out and published and released.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. It's been a great journey, a learning journey. It definitely kicked my ass. I'm not gonna lie. I always say, a friend of mine said to me, he said, I called them and said, I got accepted for a book deal and everything. And she said, listen, because she wrote one already. I'm like, listen, you're probably going to hate yourself and your life and never want to write another book when it's over. And I'm like, what? No way, man. I mean, this is the best ever. And then I called her up like, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. And I'm like, I'm buying you a drink because you were so freaking right. Like it's a ton of work. You put your heart and soul into it, right? But it's a ton of effort. I don't know what will be worth it in the end, but I probably won't write another one. I'm going to make a video instead, which segues me into my next thing, that I actually have a online streaming DVD that's releasing soon. It'll probably be out when the podcast comes out, but nice. It's where I have 25 movements that people can go through from beginning to end of the primal movements that I show you the system, and you don't have to go to the workshop. You can just get the video and then do it on your own at home, which is very cool. I'm excited to launch that, and it's going to be just a stream. Like, you get it, and you can watch it whenever you want to.
That's fantastic. I'll be sure to include all of that stuff in the show notes so people can have easy access to all that stuff.
Oh, cool. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Was there anything else that you want to touch on in terms of specific topics, or anything new that you're working on and want to share?
Let's see. That's a good one. Yeah, I've actually something pretty exciting for me. I started to, because I'm an avid learner, right? And I've been trying to learn different ways to figure out the body and help people get out of pain. And recently went to Europe and got exposed to a course through, it's called amino neurofrequency, and it's using very special, what they call frequency discs that help people recover from pain or discomfort. And it's very fascinating to me. I'm actually going to be teaching it across the United States, and something that was, well, I looked at it, I'm like, wow, I'm not quite sure what it might be or what to do, but I was like very open minded. And I went there, and I probably saw some of the most amazing things that I've ever seen. People have like pain on a scale of an 8 to a 9. And then after you get these discs on them that are on the skin and they would go down to a 1 or a 2 within a matter of not even 60 seconds. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, crazy, right? And then I just started to use it on myself too. And for personally on me, it kind of really transformed my life, because several years ago, I was very sick. I had a lot of full body infections, kind of an autoimmune type thing where the body was beginning to attack itself, and I was just not healthy. Had to go through some multiple surgeries on different things, and going through surgeries and medications, antibiotics, I mean, that takes it out of you. My body was just kind of tapping out. Right. And that's such a common story for a lot of people. And even after I got over that stuff, right? Like, they're like, okay, you're good. I just didn't feel good. I wasn't healthy. Like, I was tired, and I was taking naps all the time. I had headaches. I was stressed. I was being a jerk. I had temperature, and a temper tantrum kind of thing where I'm like, like really like nasty. And I'm saying to myself, I knew that I didn't want to be that way, but I couldn't control it. And I went here for the course, and the instructor, Mikkel, worked me over, did some stuff here, and then found that I had some issues with my lymphatic system, my lymph system. And I was just very toxic. My body couldn't purge out all of the stuff that was done to me, or all of the stuff that I was trying to heal from, right? Because just because you're putting good stuff into your body and you're trying to heal from something doesn't mean you're going to, if it can't get rid of what you're trying to heal from. Right. So it's got to be able to get that stuff out. And the primary way it does that is through your lymphatic system, which is kind of the sewage system of your body. And mine was just ungodly tender, man. I mean, there's some points he took me, and I about wanted to punch him in the face, right? And we got these discs that we put on these very special points on my lymph system. And you go through kind of a detox because you're purging yourself. And then I swear to God, man, like 2 days later, I was a different human being. I was like, I had energy, I had focus, I was like a laser beam. I wasn't a jerk anymore. I slept great, and I haven't taken a nap since then. I'm on fire with mental clarity and stuff like that. And when I teach, and when you're used to feeling like shit for so long, you don't know what good feels like anymore.
Yeah.
Until you feel good, and then you're like, holy cow, this is amazing, right? And then because you kind of get used to your environment. And for me, it was such a transformational thing very quickly within a day or so that I had immediate, like, this I have to get more into and this I have to teach. So I know I went kind of long about that, and I did that because it was really a powerful moment for me. And then now I just kind of want to share that, and I integrate that into my movement stuff and things like that. And I want just to expose many people to different approaches and say that all these things together can absolutely positively change your life when you start to do them. But the really cool thing is that you can probably change somebody else's too, and that would make me really happy. So I'm going to start teaching this course in the United States for people that are physicians and doctors and therapists, but I also put kind of a call out, which is kind of what I'm talking about here on Facebook and social media, where there's nobody in the United States really doing this therapy. So I put a call out there that if you're jacked up, if you're messed up, if you got stuff where nothing else works and nobody can figure it out, you're the person I want to see in my office where I can take a look at you and start to work these things up and try to make a difference on it. And it doesn't matter how complicated your case is. I kind of take it all on. And then we see what we can do to help you. So people can learn more about that at my website on stopchasingpain.com for sure, or they can go to what's called Amino, AMINO, healthcare.com. And you can take stuff up there, follow me on Facebook and stuff, because I put a call out like, I want the most jacked up people in the world to come on in. And, I just wanted to put that out there because it's really cool, fascinating stuff. And I think that that's pretty an important thing when people are in our situations to never think that what you're teaching is just a be all end all, and be open to learning different things, because that's really, really powerful. And for me, it was the value and power of your lymphatic system, which honestly, I didn't look at that shit for most of my life. Now I look at it on everybody.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, and I'll be sure to include that specific page on your site, and then also the other site that you mentioned in the show notes too, so people can check that out.
Thanks.
Well, we're coming up right around an hour and everything, and the last part that I do, unless there's something else that you want to talk about.
No, I'm good, man.
Okay.
That was great. I had a really great time. Thank you. I mean, cool. It was nice to come on. I've been teaching for 2 days here. Did my third day. I got one more day left. And you're like, can you come on my podcast? Are you going to be tired? I'm like, hell no, man. I won't be tired. I'm good.
We got one more thing, and that's I do this with every guest, rapid fire. So I do a series
of questions.
Good.
Sweet, man. All right. Well, I hope I have some good answers for them.
Yeah, this will be fun. Okay. So Dr. Perry, first question.
Yes.
Given all of your experience in life and all the knowledge that you've accumulated up to this point, if you could go back in time, what advice would you give yourself 15 years ago?
Oh, that's a good one. It would be this one. I used to have a big problem where I would kind of self-sabotage myself, right? Like I didn't have a belief in myself at one point, and I kept getting in my own way, right? So I would say I would give myself a couple of pieces of advice and say, you got what it takes to get where you want to go if you just step out of your own way. And the other one is my favorite one that I use from now on. It's that if you really want to try to make a change in the world, but also a change in yourself, you have to open up your heart. You have to make yourself vulnerable, and you have to have a willingness to look stupid. What that means is don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to be wrong, because you don't really understand this when you're younger, but the way you get really, really, really good is to get your ass kicked a lot
Yeah.
and fail a lot, but never fail the same way twice, right? Because you should always change something up. And if you don't put it out there and do it, well, then you got no benchmark of a place to start from. So I would just say it's a roundabout way for me to say hell's bells, grow a set, and just go do it.
No, that's great. I love that, and I couldn't agree more in terms of, learning from, quote unquote failures. I mean, there's this really great quote that I always come back to from Mike Tatey, who was he coached on the U.S. rowing national team for 12 years, and he always said it's only a mistake if you do the same thing twice, right? Like, so if you learn from it, it's not a mistake. It's a learning opportunity.
Oh, that's a good one, man. That's good, man. He's short and sweet there. I took a long way to say that.
No, that was great. Yeah. That was great. What is your favorite strength training exercise if you had to pick one?
Ooh, that's a good one. Honestly, my favorite strength training exercise to get overall for the whole body is something that we don't do enough of, in my opinion, which is doing a lot of hanging and pull-ups and chin-ups.
Nice.
Right?
Nice.
Yeah, that's a big one because very few people can actually do it.
Right, and that's important to be able to move your body weight. I mean, I remember when going through your course, one of the first things you had us do in that course and in RockTape too was the
fall matrix.
The fall matrix, getting up off the ground, and it's like, it was a huge kind of like light bulb moment. It's like, man, like I'm in trouble if I can't get up off the ground, and like, if I fall and break my leg or like, hip, like that's a big deal. That's a really big deal.
It really is, man, and it's a great conditioning routine. And I mean, that's a big part of what my book is, to get people comfortable going back down to the ground and back up again many, many different ways, even the elderly, because they need to more than anything else, because when they go down, their life expectancy drops significantly.
Yes. Okay. What, I skipped ahead there. I'm not reading correctly. How has your training changed today compared to 15 years ago?
Holy cow, completely. I tell everybody, I mean, I come from a bodybuilding world. I would just pick heavy shit up and like push it and pull it. And I was just concerned about getting big and how much iron I could lift. And I did most of that my life. I mean, I'm 50 years old. I've been working out since I was 14. And most of it was weight training. And it was great. I mean, it builds strength, but because if you only do one type of training or movement, you're going to get hurt no matter what it is. And I was just getting jacked up and messed up. And then a friend of mine exposed me to ground-based body weight movement. First was from a technique in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu called gymnastica natural. And that's just moving your own body weight down on the ground, which kicked my ass 3 ways from Sunday, man. I was like, hanged. And I was like, holy cow, man, this was awesome, but very humiliating. And then I'm like, because I could drive some heavy weight, but I couldn't control my own body weight. So what I started to do now is I do a ton more body weight work, ground-based work, even just traditional body weight stuff like chin-ups and pull-ups and stuff, not so much iron. I train a lot more of a faster pace, which means I still control my movement when I do it, but I just move very quickly on to the next thing without a little rest. And then I've slowed movement down a ton, and I like to work with resistance bands a ton. It's called variable resistance bands or elastic bands. The reason I like those is because when you stretch those, they want to pull back. So you actually have to control the ricochet back. So it's an extremely powerful way to do eccentric or deceleration training. So the biggest thing I've done, honestly, is peel back on the weight training a lot. Because you have to do some, because it's nothing like driving iron. I mean, I'll miss it if I don't do it. But I also get down on the ground and I twist, turn, bend, rotate, flip, do all sorts of crazy stuff down there, which has probably made me be stronger and more powerful in all of my 50 years than I've ever been before.
Excellent. That's awesome. Have you ever had an injury? And if so, how did that change your training?
Oh boy. Oh geez. I've had everything you could think of. The biggest injury that I had that affected my training was I've had 3 disc herniations of my lower back at L5-S1, the last vertebra in the body. And the last herniation was so severe that I lost feeling in one of my legs and in my calf. And 50% of my muscle mass is permanently gone in my right leg. And I just got to a point where I could almost barely control my bladder and my bowel, which are usually a surgical emergency. And I had to really step back and heal and evaluate my type of training after that. But it sidelined me for such a long period of time where I was like, I wasn't even sure I was going to be able to function again. It was very emotional. Anybody's back pain knows, very emotional, very terrifying. But that injury exposed me to the world of laser therapy, which ended up saving my back. And then I'm one of the biggest modalities that I actually use right now to help people heal from pain through light via laser light. I like to think that most of the things that we go through, even some of the biggest tragedies, pardon me, it's trying to lead you into another part of your life. You just have to be open enough to figure out what that is.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, you got to be willing to receive.
Yeah.
What's one thing that high school athletes should be doing more of to complement their training and their health?
Man. Well, I mean, I'm actually going to kind of take it back to what you did before with talking about the fall matrix. This is where you go from the standing position down to the ground and back up again a ton. As high school athletes, I mean, they love what they do. They're very passionate about it. But what I've seen is that they have atrocious body awareness and body control. And if I can get them to begin to move in all those different directions to go down to the ground and back up again, that's probably the biggest way they're going to be getting awareness of their body to help their mobility and their stability. So they're so busy very often trying to build up strength and power. But I've noticed that collegiate and high school athletes have kind of a certain theme to them. The guys can't move at all. They've got no mobility. And I know they've got poor stability because they can't move. And then women, they have lots of mobility, but they can't control it. So they're very flexible, but they have poor stability. So going up and down to the ground like that, one, it'll kick your ass because it's very aerobic, but it will also give you comfortable working in all planes of motion. So to me, I think that's the biggest thing that I see is that they just don't move enough in all these different planes of motion. They're just concerned about like a lot of superficial muscles on that, or they play just their sport over and over and over and over. And they think that that's enough of a training routine for them to do.
Right. So don't excuse me, don't early sports specialize. Make sure you vary up the movements that you're doing, the sports you're playing, be an overall athlete, and spend some time on the ground.
Yeah, that's a biggie, right? That'll change your life, and it really will. And people say, "Oh, that's bullshit, man. I'm not going to go down to the ground. That's crazy, or that's like I don't have time for that, or people are going to make fun of me." And I'm like, "Well, the easiest way I sell this one is I tell an athlete, I got an idea for you. I want you to do your workout or your lift the way you want to today, the way you've always done it, and then tomorrow I want you to humor me and do what I show you to do first. And then you come back to me and you tell me the difference. I won't have to say another word ever again."
Right. Yeah. And you quickly build trust.
Yeah, like, dude, I'm ready to throw it out there. I mean, you do it, it works. If you do it, don't. I mean, then you know, right? I'll throw it out there on the line because I know it'll work.
Nice. What's your best tip to improve recovery after a training session?
Oh, shit. Well, I guess it's first of all going to depend on what your training session was. Are you recovering from a bodybuilding type of workout? Or is it more of an aerobic one, like a run, that type of thing? One is to make sure that you're eating for what type of training that you're doing. That's a big one. And then after a workout, when I go with people, as I say, you should work on your breathing patterns after a workout. Big one, because a lot of people work on breathing before they work out, but they don't do shit after they work out. So you've got your immediate afterwards. For me, the immediate afterwards is learning how to breathe and then give you the adequate nutrition that you need based on the workout that you did. Right? And then after that one is to make sure you're getting enough adequate rest, which is sleep, in between the next time you train, because most people train way too much and they're in a perpetual state of overtraining and they're making poor progress.
Yeah. That was great. Okay. Three more and then we're done.
Okay.
What's your favorite meal?
Oh, well, I mean, I love breakfast. Breakfast is definitely my favorite meal of the day. I mean, I love it. But I don't eat breakfast until later. I always eat like 11 or 12, usually in the morning when I do that. So my breakfast is usually the same. I always eat a ton of eggs. I eat like 4 eggs with the yolks. And then I have oatmeal, which is the 5-minute oats. And then I have the Fage, plain yogurt. And I mix that up in with some cool kashi cereal. And I have that. I mean, when I have that with my coffee, I'm like, dude, I'm like really happy. Like, I mean, I have an unusual love for my breakfast. Yeah.
Awesome. What's one book everyone should read?
Well, of course, I got to say mine, right? But good to Stop Chasing Pain one. But that's a tough one because it depends on whether you kind of go for like a self-help one or you're going for the fitness ones or whatever. And let me think about that one for a second. I think probably one of my favorite ones is a very short book, and it applies to self-help, but that carries over to everything else because you're never going to be great at all the other stuff that you want to do if you don't have the right thought process or you don't love yourself, right? So it's a really short, very cool book, and it's been around for a long period of time, and it's called As a Man Thinketh. As a man thinketh. And of course it was made so long ago that it was man, right? But it should be man and woman, right? And anybody else on this planet, whether you consider yourself, right? That it's really about the power of thought. That as you thinketh, which is a cool word, you tend to manifest what you think about. Mm-hmm. And that really all the shit that's going on in your life, I mean, very often you can't control that, but what you have complete autonomy over is your reaction to the shit that's thrown your way.
Yes, 100%, absolutely.
So that's a biggie, right? That's probably a biggie. Plus it's a short read, so I know you'll read it.
Nice. Very cool. Final question. Who do you study or have you studied in your career to improve and get better?
Good God, man. I study from anybody and everybody, right? Like from all different disciplines. Yes. Like I don't just study health and fitness. I study self-help. I read other type of books, almost any kind of crazy thing you could think of. I love to read nonfiction because I like to learn all the time. Mm-hmm. I got to say, the person who was the catalyst for all of this stuff many, many years ago was Gray Cook. physical therapist, and everything he puts out, I just read because I just love his perspective on it and his take on it. It gets me to think, a different way on that, but keeps it very simple. So I absolutely positively put him over the top of the list of what I'm going for.
Awesome.
So that would be the answer. Yeah. And then anybody else who's listening that's a good friend of mine and stuff like that I've learned from, you're in my heart and my brain somewhere. So I'm just not saying it here, but I thank you all as well.
Excellent, man. That was great. Well, that takes us through all the rapid fire questions and through the interview. So thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you, my friend. It was a really, really great time. And you asked some very cool, thought-provoking questions, and some got me to think for sure, which is great. I love the rapid fire ones as well, but it's always great when I do these shows because it gets me to kind of talk about the way that I look at the body, and hopefully it can have something that resonated with a few people here today. And then that would make me extremely happy.
Excellent. Well, I have no doubt that that's going to happen when we get this one rolled out and published. So I'm sure it'll
very cool.
Some folks.
Thank you. And for anybody who's listening after this, you can of course reach out to me. I think Joe may give you my contact information, but I'm not tough to find. If you just go type in stopchasingpain.com, you're going to have a few things pop up.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely. Well, Perry, just hang on the line. Let me give you a proper goodbye, and we'll get off the air.
Cool, man.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that brand new episode on the Leo Training Podcast, and we will be back next week with another brand new interview when I sit down with University of Princeton men's heavyweight rowing head coach Greg Hughes.
Thanks for listening to the Leo Training Podcast. Subscribe and get even more expert training tips at www.leotraining.io.